Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wednesday drawing session with me, Frank Cho. There's my trusty Pentel mechanical pencil with 0.7 HB millimeter lead and my kneaded eraser. And here's my favorite paper to draw on, Strathmore Bristolboard 300 series with vellum surface. Now, a lot of you guys been asking about me drawing a Star Wars character. Well, today's your lucky day. I decided to draw a character from the Star Wars universe. And I decided to draw Yoda. I think Yoda is one of my favorite characters in the whole Star Wars universe because he's such a unique looking character, and just a fun character. The way he speaks and the way he moves, and so he's kind of like this Zen Buddhist kind of kung fu master, kind of thing. Now, I've already had an image of Yoda in my mind before I start drawing. So I want to draw Yoda standing with his lightsaber out and with one foot resting on a stormtrooper's helmet. So with that in mind, it was just kind of like, it's just kind of like fairly easy from there. Now, since I'm a big Star Wars fan, I actually have a lot of Star Wars reference books lying in my studio. I actually have a lot of the art of Star Wars on my shelf. So I just grabbed, one of the, I guess the encyclopedia, Star Wars. It's like visual encyclopedia, and ran with it. Now, the thing that drove me nuts was drawing the Stormtrooper's helmet. Now, the Stormtrooper helmet is actually is a really unique. It's a great design. Just overall, it's a great design. But for whatever reason, it was so hard to draw because like everything is just slightly off. From the visor to this weird kind of like upside down boomerang mouth, and this little kind of like this tubular thing along the jawline, and that kind of like comes to a point in the chin area. So it drove me nuts. So you'll see me throughout the whole process kind of struggling with the helmet a little bit. Now, Yoda, you have to be careful with Yoda since he's such a small character. So normally I would draw like a heroic figure, and they're like about 8 heads tall, 8 to 7, yeah, about 7.5 to 8 heads tall. But with Yoda, he's half that size. So I think Yoda is roughly about 4.5 heads tall. So you have to be careful with that. And also, there's a certain balance. When you're drawing all the figures, there's a certain balance to it. So you don't want to make his head too big because it kind of throws everything off. So Yoda kind of has this round head, and from the side has this long pointy ear that kind of sticks out in a lateral fashion. And he has this deep pronounced brow ridge, and on the top of his head is kind of like it's like an alligator's back. It has like a kind of like a grid system, kind of markings on the top of his head. Now with Yoda, you have to like he has this really great big expressive eyes, so you need to really pay attention to his eyes. And he has this kind of like this little button nose and kind of this little apish mouth area. Yeah, the thing that I didn't realize about Yoda is Yoda kind of has like a sloping forehead, and that kind of like comes to a point. So you have to be very kind of be mindful of that, because he has this like a very subtle point to his head. Yeah, so if you really look at it, he kind of looks like a gremlin, from that movie Gremlins, back in the 80s. So whenever I draw a figure, I like to kind of like draw out the anatomy, kind of like the musculature of the character first before I start adding clothes and and all and armor and stuff like that. So here's me kind of like mapping out all the general anatomy of Yoda. So I just want to have his right hand out by his side. He's holding a lightsaber, and I want his left hand kind of resting on his on his knee. Kind of like a casual yet heroic pose. So as I'm drawing this, I'm constantly erasing and drawing and erasing. So, don't be too precious with your drawing. If it looks right, it's right. If it looks wrong, then it's wrong. Then if it looks wrong, then erase it and start over. Now, so once I have the basic anatomy down, I like to kind of like lightly erase everything to mainly to get rid of all the stray marks. And then I start going in with more finalized line, because I have like a faint outline of the original sketch. So following that, I start doing more of a stronger, more finished line. So there I am, kind of like drawing that, kind of like that grid, uh, system on the forehead that looked like an alligator's back. It has that kind of that smile line and that has this very thin lips. So Yoda was created because in the original Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi was dead, and George Lucas, the creator, wanted Luke Skywalker to continue with his training, and so he created Yoda to help Luke continue with his training. But he wanted like more, I guess, like more like a Zen master that kind of like you know that kind of like understand the universe, the balance of it all. Yeah, I've always saw like Yoda as this kind of like this Zen Buddhist kung fu master. So I think I read somewhere that Yoda was inspired by Shimada from from Akira Kawasawa Kurosawa. Why can't I pronounce that name? Seven Samurai movie. And also, he kind of has a very distinct. Lucas gave Yoda a very distinct speaking pattern to kind of make the character more interesting. Now, once I have the figure work down, then I just start draping the clothes all over the anatomy. So Yoda has this kind of like this robe, and underneath has this like very rough tunic that has with a kind of like a simple cloth belt. I mean, once you kind of put the robe on Yoda, I mean that's Yoda. I mean, he just kind of this like this green little alien creature, you know. So Yoda's puppet was created by Stuart Freeborn and Wendy Froud. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Freeborn based Yoda's face on his own and Albert Einstein, which kind of I think that was kind of pretty cool. Uh, and um, and George Lucas wanted Jim Henson to puppeteer the Yoda puppet, but Jim Henson was busy, so he recommended Frank Oz. Now, for those people who don't know Frank Oz is actually a really brilliant film director himself, but he's mainly known for his puppetry. And also in the Muppet Show, Frank Oz was the voice of Miss Piggy and Fozzie the Bear. So if you actually listen closely to Yoda, I mean, you could kind of hear Fozzie the Bear, you know. Ah, waka waka waka. And then so you have that Fozzie Bear, and then you have Yoda, you know. What was that like? How you get so big eating food like this? So you could kind of, hear the two voices. Yeah, so there I am, just kind of like really. I don't know. I hated drawing that stormtrooper's helmet. Yeah, I think I read that all those people who played the stormtrooper in the movies. They said that once you put on the helmet, it's very very hard to see because even though design wise it actually really looks cool and menacing, but as a functionality, as a functional thing, the helmet is not designed to be user friendly because I think it constantly shifts and there's a lot of blind spots in the visor area. So you all the actors that played stormtroopers, they had a hard time looking, seeing through the helmet, which makes sense. I guess that's why the stormtroopers are terrible shots. So I'm drawing that kind of like that tubular thing that kind of runs along the jawline. Yeah, so all right, so this I think this is where I screwed up. As I'm drawing this, I didn't realize if Yoda had two fingers and a thumb or three fingers and a thumb. So I decide to go with three fingers and a thumb. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you Star Wars fans out there will is probably screaming at the screen right now, saying, he has, how do you not know how many fingers Yoda have? You call yourself a fan, I just want to say I'm just a casual fan. All right, I'm a big fan of the original trilogy, but Kathleen Kennedy and the the prequels kind of made me made me become a lot less of a fan. Oh man, I mean, like, don't get me started on all the Kathleen Kennedy stuff. Oh God. So anyway, enough of that. Oh, so here's a funny fact. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people agree with me or not. I've always felt Star Wars is one of those franchise that is very unique because the sequel is superior than the original in my opinion. So Star Wars was a great movie, but I thought Empire Strikes Back, the sequel, was even better movie. So out of the three, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back is the best movie out of the three. And and so Star Wars franchise is one of those rare movies where the sequel is better than the original. Kind of like Frankenstein. I've always felt Frankenstein was a good movie, but I thought The Bride of Frankenstein was much better movie than the original Frankenstein. And I'm pretty sure there's like several other movies that has that same pattern. Oh, another movie that where the sequel is better than the original, in my opinion, is Alien. So Alien, I thought was great, but I thought Aliens, James Cameron sequel, Aliens, was much better movie than the original. So once I have the anatomy down, I'm kind of like putting the clothes on. And it's, you know, I've drawn so much draperies and clothing and all that. It just comes second nature to me. I don't even need any reference. I can just like wing it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of like drawing all the clothes and stuff like that. And putting in that little simple belt that he wears. So if you're having trouble with clothes and drapery, just go ahead and model yourself and look in the mirror, see how the fabric kind of falls on your on you. That's what I do sometimes. If I'm kind of stuck, if I can't find reference for something, I often pose myself in the mirror and use myself as a model. Yeah, I couldn't find my regular ruler. I usually have like a plastic triangular ruler. So I had to grab my steel ruler. That's the ruler that I use mainly for like cutting paper, you know. And another thing, I actually didn't know how the Yoda's lightsaber looked like, so I just like winged it. Now, so I have mixed feelings about Yoda's lightsaber. I thought so when in the prequel, when Yoda actually fights the Emperor, and then he just kind of like had his lightsaber popped out, and then he started fighting the Emperor. Um, Wait a second, who did he fight? Was it Dooku? I don't know. I've always thought Yoda fighting with a lightsaber. I've always thought that was a big mistake. I thought that Yoda is so powerful, he didn't need lightsabers. I think he should have just been just kind of like using the Force to just really do some damage. Him kind of like flipping around, like slashing people and all that. It just didn't look right to me. It didn't look dignified. I guess that's the right word, dignified. Have this grandmaster, this wizened grandmaster, just like jumping around and flipping like a chimp. It just didn't. It just visually it just didn't look right to me. So I thought he should have been more grounded. He shouldn't be doing flipping and jumping. Like an ape, and he should be just directing the force where he's just literally like moving like large vehicles and even like blasting walls, with the force. I mean, he's so strong that he, like the scene should have been like Yoda just destroying everything because he is so powerful, like just like just like pummeling the emperor, and then the only way for the emperor to like fight against Yoda is to him, you know, going after innocent bystanders. I think that would have been. I thought that would have been a more logical choice, and also kind of give Yoda a little bit more dignity instead of him like jumping around like a circus chimp. So again, that's my opinion. That's opinion. Yeah, that's my opinion. So I know that was that was a big fan service when Yoda popped out his lightsaber and start fighting. And I was like, that's just I don't know. I think I think they should have went the other way. Where he should be more dignified and he's just like kind of almost just like flying and hovering and just like using the force more than anything else. So don't get me started on the prequels and all the Kathleen Kennedy stuff. It's just so I just look at the original trilogy, and I just ignored the rest. That's how I kind of that's why I kind of make myself feel better. I try to think that the other movies didn't exist. No, don't get me started on the Indiana Jones. I actually love Indiana Jones more than Star Wars. When I was a kid, and when I saw the Raiders of the Lost Ark, when that giant boulder started rolling down in the opening sequence, man, that just like blew my mind away, and just made me a fan from the word go. And I thought the first three, the original trilogy, Indiana Jones trilogy, was fantastic. I even loved Temple of Doom. I thought Temple of Doom was really fun. You know, and the whole opening sequence with the dance number. They're in, I guess, Shanghai or something like that, or Hong Kong. Um, I thought that was great. I mean, it kind of reminded me of like 1930s, 1920s, 1930s. Terry and the Pirates, Buzz Sawyer kind of action adventure. It kind of like has that nostalgia factor. I think it was really well done. Uh, you know, I actually enjoyed Temple of Doom, and and then like the last two, 4 and 5, was the Crystal Skull and the Dial of Destiny. Oh, what's a terrible name. I thought those two just was just terrible. So yeah, so Indiana Jones is kind of like Star Wars to me. I like the first three, and then rest of them I could care less. I actually got a lot of cool story ideas for Star Wars. I mean, hell, I mean, I could probably write and direct better Star Wars uh, movies and TV shows you know than the recent stuff that's put out by Kathleen Kennedy. So I'm kind of shading in the lower half. It's that kind of gives like the spotlight look to the character. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna ask me if I seen the Disney Plus Star Wars shows. I've seen some of it. I actually enjoyed the Mandalorian. I thought the Book of Boba Fett was kind of weak. I didn't see the one Andor. I haven't seen Andor. I saw parts of it, and it's definitely a different take on Star Wars. It seemed like a really a serious drama than anything else. No, actually, I take that back. The I think that the Star Wars movie, the recent Star Wars movie that I love is Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed that a lot. That sequence at the end when Darth Vader comes after I guess that little the the plan, when he's like just mowing down the rebels. I thought that's exactly what I wanted to see as a kid. Just to see how scary Darth Vader is. And I thought, that scene in that Rogue One when Darth Vader is just coming at you, I was like, wow, that is just absolutely fantastic. So Rogue One is I would put it up there. I think I would put um, Empire Strike Back number one, Rogue One as number two, and then Star Wars as my third favorite, and then my fourth favorite is Return of the Jedi. So those four movies, I think, are my favorite Star Wars movies. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I mean, I wasn't sure. Like some of the in the encyclopedia, the Star Wars encyclopedia, it looked like Yoda kind of has like a weird necklace thing. So I just thought maybe he just had like a like a like a leather pouch that he wears around his neck that has that has like some sort of I don't know, herbs and spice and whatever. I mean, that could be like his change purse or something. Yeah, so I'm just like shading everything in, kind of adding the texture, extra texture. I actually really enjoyed drawing Yoda. I mean, this came out really fast. I mean, I think I drew this whole thing in half an hour. So at this point, I'm just kind of like cleaning the drawing, erasing stray marks, adding little tufts of hair. Adding some scuff marks around on the helmet. Just adding some more battle damage. Just adding some rocks and pebbles on the ground to give it that extra texture. And kind of also like a hint of the environment. More shading. Kind of like erasing some straight marks. Adding deeper shadows. Hopefully all the stuff, like I kind of, when I draw, I kind of have like a stream of consciousness. So hopefully I didn't offend anyone out there with my opinion of Star Wars. I mean, some of you actually Star Wars fans and comic fans in general, they're very strongly have strong opinions. Kind of lighten up the kind of the nose bridge area. Yeah, just adding the final marks. Darkening the fingers. A little more texture, kind of give the robe a little bit more scruffy look. Erasing the stray marks. Just adding some more texture on the ground. Well, there you go. Yoda from Star Wars. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me draw it. I actually had a great time with this one. See you guys next week.